I'm back. I am 13, and this one tonight is actually going to be a ton of fun. So this deck is Esper Highlander. This deck is called Highlander. For those unaware, EDH is also known as Elder Dragon Highlander. You're allowed one of each card. And what I went for was just one of every legend. So this kind of started off as a way to fairly play Goryo's Vengeance, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then it meant that we needed legendary creatures. And those legendary creatures, like if you're a creature deck, you're running Aether Vial. And then we kind of just stuck to the rule of one-ofs to try out a couple of different copies of cards, and they all just turned into legends. But this deck is kind of full Timmy. I know we said never go full Timmy. This deck is not going to be super amazing, but it's a ton of fun to play in and of itself. There's a lot of fun interactions between all the different one-ofs that you typically don't see, and this deck actually feels like there's a lot of different lines to choose from, a couple of different directions to go in that aren't exactly obvious. But what this is blue, white, black, Esper colors, legends. So Marike is our only actual Esper legend, and she reads, she doesn't untap during your untap step, but you can tap to gain control of target creature as long as you control her, and then when she leaves play or becomes untapped, destroy that creature. So there's a couple of different fun ways to interact with that, but seeing as we're Esper and she's the only actual Esper legend, kind of felt like she deserved the highlight spot there. There's a lot of different utility that we get to abuse with her, but she's just one of the instances of it. We're also running quite a few copies of just powerful legends. We have Thick Thalia, regular Thalia, Camball. This is just taxing your opponent, making it so that some strategies don't necessarily work as well. But then we also get a lot of utility with our lands. Again, legendary lands, the Amber, the Mox Amber, way over on the left over there. Everything legendary we just have one of. And I'm not even going to say the Cloud Keeper correctly, so I'm not going to try. But the Cloud Keeper is going to allow us to actually get out our legends faster than expected. We end up running Aether Vials to get them in at instant speed. Minimo will actually untap our Marike, also untap a lot of our different legends that we have. We have Shizo. A lot of fun interactions here of just making our creatures unblockable. Works really well with Geist of Saint Draft. I was expecting this to be a little rough to watch. I know that the live viewer count isn't necessarily up where it needs to be at, but ended up installing MTG bot so that you can get different card names and a lot of one-ofs. So you can even tell from our deck list over on the right, it's pretty hectic. I'm going to try to cover cards as well as possible, but this deck isn't going to be super strong. It's going to be a weak version of Humans, but we're going to be doing something unique and have a lot of different lines of play, so I'm pretty excited to run this one through. Alright, so this hand, again, we are legendary, so it's a little hard to gauge what this deck wants to do. We don't do anything super consistently, but we have an Aether Vial, we have a 2-drop and a 4-drop. Our 2-drop requires something in the graveyard, but it also has Surveil on it, so it'll help us filter. We have our land drops in an Aether Vial though, so this hand is good enough to keep. Lazov, when it enters, will Surveil 1, and then we can pay X to make it a copy of anything in our graveyard. So not really our best here, but Aether Vial will let us cheat our creatures in and do it at instant speed. And then Venser's actually been an amazing card for me in Modern at the moment. Being able to bounce a spell or permanent is just fantastic. He's had a lot of utility for me. So we'll see where this goes. And looks like we're playing against Malaria Pod. But let's see what we got. So, Thick Thalia is an alright draw here. Unfortunately, our Aether Vial is not going to get a ton of action at the current moment because we're going to be curving out. Lazov will enter. We do not need an additional land, so we'll go ahead and bin that. And then, yeah, we're just going to be playing on curve. And none of these three actually interact with each other in a super meaningful way. But opponent looks like they might be stuck on land drops, which means that Thalia is going to make him play off curve, and then Venser will probably bounce a land. We'll see if we can get enough done there. Alright, and they're on birds, so they missed their land drop. Ooh, Mangara being able to take out a mana source is going to be fantastic here. So we need our white source, so Marsh Flats is coming out. I'm okay to run out Thalia post-combat. They're not going to be blocking. This is their mana sources, so pretty easy chip for one here. Then on the off chance that this is like Teamer control with Bloodbraid, Jace, Blood Moon, I'm going to grab our basic here. We do need double white. And seeing as our opponent's a little stuck on mana, it means that they won't be able to Field of Ruin us or won't be incentivized to. Minimo will actually be able to untap our Mangara. So, sorry, I probably need to actually cover what these creatures are doing. Thalia makes it so that creatures and non-basics enter tapped under our opponent's control. Ooh, and they're on Glittering Wish. So, Glittering Wish is going to let them pull something out of their sideboard that's multicolored. And they got Jeskai Ascendancy, so this looks like it's probably the Ascendancy Phoenix list. Alright, well we're ticking this up. Our deck is pretty heavy on the 3 and 4 drop, so we're at least going to 3. Another Aether Vial isn't bad. But we need to figure out what we're doing with Venser here. So we're going to be getting in for sure. When we untap, we can activate Mangara to exile target permanent. And then we can use Minimo to untap Mangara and get another permanent. So we're doing pretty good here. I want to figure out if we want to put Venser out to slow them. I think we're just going to have to return Jeskai Ascendancy to their hand, untap, and then nuke 2 of their mana sources. It's probably the best we're going to do here, but Venser's at least going to be a good thing to hold. We can bounce a spell or one of their land drops. And we might just have tempo here because they were a little bit on the slow side. Alright, so Jeskai Ascendancy is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 and untap. So Ascendancy is going to net them a lot of mana here. It could be that I'm supposed to Venser to bounce the Birds of Paradise, but they can just float the mana, untap, and kind of go off. So I'm going to use Venser to just return this to their hand, and then I'll get rid of 2 of their mana sources and just be able to swing in and have them on a 2-turn clock. So bounce the Jeskai Ascendancy. There's the Stomping Grounds. And then we're going to put in Mangara, untap, and nuke 2 mana sources. Real quick, take a look at the deck. Looks like we want to stay on 3 drops here, so Aether Vial is going to stay where it's at. And I think opponent's trying to figure out exactly what's going on because we have a slew of one-ofs. Alright, so Gemstone Caverns is one of our legendary lands. It's good when we're on the draw, not much else. But we can go ahead and hold priority. We'll get rid of their single color here. Untap our Mangara. And seeing as they're a Jeskai Ascendancy combo deck, I think we want to go for the creatures because untapping their creatures will net them mana for every spell that they cast. So they can keep their lands, but we're going to go after the Birds of Paradise. I know I covered this with our Flicker deck, but Mangara is really good because the activated ability is only tapping for the cost, and then exiling her is part of the benefit. So being able to untap her here means that we get to put our trigger on the stack twice, and we're going to be able to get 2 permanents with just the single activation. Then that means that we get to get in with our Lazov, Thalia, and Venser, and we are on a 2-turn clock unless they're on chump block duty. But the way that this deck works is if they make their land drop, they can potentially combo off and kill us. Which is why I didn't run out the Aether Vial. We can cast anything in our hand and Just be good to go there. Alright, so they're on Caryatid. I think they forgot about Thick Thalia causing creatures to enter tap, so they have a single chump blocker. But Jeskai Ascendancy is looking pretty bad for us next turn. Alright, so Wrath is going to allow us to cast all of our legendary stuff for Flash. We're going to get in. They're going to be on chump block duty with the Birds of Paradise. And then we're potentially going to have Wrath as a blocker, or we can untap anything currently on the battlefield. So we're in a pretty decent position. Opponent has been pretty mana screwed this game, though. Alright, they're down to 3. We have a Flash blocker. Caryatid won't be able to get in. Opponent's going to need a decent amount to go alright for them to just even survive. Because they'll have Jeskai Ascendancy, a spell, untap Caryatid. They can potentially net 1 mana every go. But anything's going to enter tap that they want to actually try to work on this turn, unless it's a basic land. Yep, they won't even have an attacker, so they'll just be able to loot here. If they're on the Phoenix build, it means that we could potentially be getting hit for a lot by Phoenixes. So Jeskai Ascendancy untaps the Caryatid. They'll be able to float mana. This will untap it. They'll have 2 mana this turn, as well as being able to loot and draw a card. Getting rid of a non-basic that's going to enter tapped regardless. Float their mana. Alright, so they're going for Cut on Thalia here. That means that the other half of Cut is Ribbons. They'll be able to actually activate Ribbons to potentially kill us here. And it means that I'm also probably going to have to use Lazov to make a copy of Thalia. And I'm not going to have priority to do that before they can make their land drop here. Oh, if they cast a spell first, that's great. Alright, so they're going to cast EE for 1, and they can blow it to get rid of the Aether Vial. But I'm going to make a copy of Thalia, which unfortunately takes Wrath out of our lines that we can take here. But it'll make sure that if they put another land into play, it'll come in tapped. And this is one of those instances where this deck is really unique in the number of things that you can do, but because you're not executing a linear game plan, it's not very strong. Wait, they did that for 0? Oh, they just did that to untap Sylvan Caryatid. Alright, so they brought back Fate Stitcher. It's going to come back tapped. If they can cast something for 1 here, they can untap and start untapping lands or tapping creatures. Yep, and a free Noxious Revival is going to get back Serum Visions. So they have 2 mana available to them. And now we potentially would have needed Wrath as a blocker. There's 2 mana for a Glittering Wish. They get to go get a creature. I guess it's just multicolored. Alright. So I'm actually just going to F6 here. And by that I mean yield until combat. Because we can still untap a creature to block a Fate Stitcher, but depending on how hard they can go off, that might be all we need to do. Because if they don't get a second creature, we'll just untap Vents or Chump Block and then be able to attack in with Thalia. It's quite unlikely they can't go off, though, because they're able to loot, and they're getting a ton of card advantage here. There's a second Fate Stitcher. Opponent's taking a look at what we got. Unfortunately, though, Fate Stitcher is tap or untap target permanent, so if we untap, they can just tap it back down. But we'll see how hard they actually commit in on this. It is possible that they fizzle, as they're not drawing multiple cards a turn. Opponent also did get kind of a slow start, so it's possible that they can't make both of these lethal. Okay, that will do it. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Yep, and now that's infinite. So they're going to pick up the EE and replay it, get multiple things. They can bounce our entire board back to our hand. Alright, so Linvala comes in. Activated abilities of creatures your opponent's control can't be activated, which means they can't activate Fate Stitcher, they can't activate Birds of Paradise or Sylvan Caryatid. Collective Brutality can kill an early mana dork and potentially duress out some of their card draw. Little inclined for that. Urza's Ruinous Blast is super cute here because it'll get rid of all their mana dorks and also their Jeskai Ascendancies. Sin Triplets is very bad in matchups where it can die to Lightning Bolt, and this is one of them. Lavinia will counter a EE for 0, so a little inclined for that. We have multiple cards that are very bad in this matchup, though. So looking at what we can cut, Audric requires Critical Mass. Afara can help us draw cards, but they'll go off before we can hit that point. Kira is interesting, although it only stops some of their early interaction. It's not actually going to stop when they can go off and get multiple abilities on the same thing. Thalia is fantastic. Goryo's Vengeance is possibly too cute here. Sig will let us draw cards. Brimaz is a fast clock. Mangara can exile permanents. Vendilion Click can potentially take out a good card from their hand. It's also a 3/1 flyer with flash. That's probably the most relevant part. Izarath is in here for grinding. Whenever it attacks, you can return a creature from the graveyard to play. Athreos are not going to be killing our creatures. Marike is potential removal. That's probably worth hanging on to. Kalatas, their creatures won't be dying. 4 mana for our 3/4 isn't good enough. And Arvad will give all of our other creatures +2/+2. Very fast clock. Drana is probably the cut. Whenever it makes contact, it puts a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature. And that's probably where we want to end up at. Alright, this is a turn 2 Lavinia into a turn 3 Mangara with Kira. It's not a very fast clock, but Lavinia is pretty decent. I mean, what's our best hand here? Aether Vial with an Izumaru? That seems acceptable. Lavinia is technically a hate piece. It's not a great one, but it is technically one. And then Mangara can just exile a permanent. Getting rid of Jeskai Ascendancy makes this deck crumble. So holding Mangara up to get rid of their Ascendancy is just going to allow us to just stop their combo cold. Then we're not going to be casting anything here. We have a hard blue, which means we need a Godless Shrine. So that's going to be a Marsh Flats. Looks like they've got their Birds of Paradise. Lavinia is also going to make it so that they can't ramp with their mana dorks very easily. There's our Godless Shrine tapped. And Urza's Ruinous Blast should be pretty good here. Alright, Minimo will make it so that Lavinia can come out. And Mox Amber can represent things like Spell Pierce. We're not running them, but their plan was a turn to Jeskai Ascendancy, they can't do it anymore because of Lavinia. Last game, all they did was drop a couple of Birds of Paradise to start off with. They'd make it so that they couldn't actually do anything here. And it looks like they're missing their land drop again. Which means Mangara can come in pretty clutch. This time if we actually take out their lands, they won't be able to cast their spells. Did they find another cantrip? Nope, another birds. Oh, they did have it. Alright, well, Minimo will untap Moronga again, so I think we're good with just getting some free beats in with Lavinia. And then run out Mangara, take out 2 lands next turn, or potentially a land and a Jeskai Ascendancy. And if they have a big turn running crap out, it means that we can just Urza's Ruinous Blast next turn. I'm a fan of tapping Amber first, just in case something actually did happen to our Lavinia. Mox Amber will add a color among any legendary creatures or planeswalkers you control when you're running, I think it's like 32 legendary creatures. This is usually going to be active. That's not fun, opponent. Oh, well, it means Lavinia's sticking around, so no free EE shenanigans. And this will actually be a pretty good blowout here. Going to be able to take out 3 of their mana dorks. If they have a land in Jeskai Ascendancy, that means they'll have 2 cards to start going off. That doesn't feel like it's secure enough. Oh, that's fine. I like that. Also makes me kind of want Kira for cut. That's fine. Lavinia is just better. Now your mana dorks are just dorks. And this is where this deck kind of shows some weird strength and being able to just hate out random strategies because some legends do things very well, like Lavinia. But not having a linear game plan is actually a real cost to this deck. Having a Lavinia and a Linvala isn't doing anything crazy productive. Alright, so opponent's digging for answers. At least it's not a burn spell with Jeskai Ascendancy and start comboing off. If they invest hard, Urza's Ruinous Blast will just clear their entire board, while leaving our board intact. This is another really good reason to be running this deck, although, like I said, this is just underpowered humans. It's not going to be very strong on its own. And I get to take a look at what's going on. So I don't actually care about killing any of these mana dorks. I want to see what's going on to see if I have to actually... Sorry, not 2 modes. I just want duress. To see if I need to do something here to protect Lavinia. Cure is going to be a good backup plan to make sure that it can't just be spot removal. Wow, they're just on EE. Okay, so EE for 0 will take out our Mox Amber, 2 will take out Lavinia. Yeah, that's all fine. Let's get some free damage in. Although it's not exactly free, they might be on chump block duty. These creatures aren't active. Alright, and then Kira will protect them from the first spell, which means they have to get up to 4 colors in order to crack it on Lavinia, at which case Urza's Ruinous Blast, because they won't be able to tap any of their mana dorks. Looking like we're in a good spot here. Oh, EE for 4. You want to do it. I want the 4 for 1. Oh, that's so delicious and tasty. I'm sorry, opponent, but this one's gonna hurt. Oh, we even got Goryo's Vengeance for Mangara. We had 2 ways to get rid of that. Oh well. So, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Standard staple for a short period. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary, which means these 4 guys, while leaving these 4 guys. Then we'll get in our free beats for 7, put them down to 2, and then Goryo's Vengeance will bring back a legendary creature from our graveyard, targeting Mangara. Mangara will exile anything but the Sylvan Caryatid in their hand. And that can't block the 2 flyers on board, so that should be a pretty easy one. This is a pretty good soft lock, though. So Lavinia says they can't cast any non-creatures with CMC higher than what's the number of lands that they have. They also can't cast anything for 0. Linvala makes it that they can't activate anything, and Cure's countering the first spell or ability targeting a creature this turn. Alright, so does anything here change? Kataki's the only one that seems interesting just because it's low on the curve and it'll make it so that they have to pay to keep EE around. But that is overboarding like crazy. Stony Silence could come in lieu of Aether Vial, but I'm not a fan of that. And this is in here for Prison. Ensnaring Bridges have become more popular as Dredge and Phoenix are at the top of the meta. It makes it so that players can't draw cards, and instead of drawing, you pay 3 life and tutor for something, but seeing as they're a combo deck, that helps them more than us. We could tutor for something like a Thalia, but they get the first tutor, and they can just go get EE and blow everything up, and I'm not a fan of it. Alright, so one of the flaws with the Aether Vial Urza's Ruinous Blast deck is Urza's Ruinous Blast will kill Aether Vial, and if you're casting Aether Vial, you typically want to go light on land, so you can't cast Urza's Ruinous Blast. This hand doesn't do anything of its own. We have 1 color of many. This is one of our legendary toolbox lands that will make it so that blocking and attacking into our creatures is really rough because we can prevent 2 damage to them. But yeah, this hand doesn't do anything on its own. So, fairly easy mulligan. And opponent's trying to figure out if they can go off with those 7. Looks like they decided they could. Nothing insane here, good enough to keep it. Goryo's Vengeance in this is a fair deck. It's really hard to enable, and we only have 1 legendary creature at the given moment, so go ahead and bottom that. Sig will allow us to draw at the end of each end step if opponent lost through more life this turn, so I'm getting the read here that opponent is on Spell Pierce and or Opt. We have 4 lands, we have a Linvala. We're leading out on a fetch land with the intent to crack it, get a shock, and then do one of these. I wouldn't be opposed to escalating Collective Brutality if they run out of Mana Dork that we can kill. But they would have led on Birds of Paradise, and they took a shock for apparently no reason. I'm a little confused by that sequencing from opponent. Unless they just drew the Opt and they were trying to hold Spell Pierce. Alright, so we have Basic Island. I'm inclined to get Godly Shrine first, just to match our colors. And Gemstone Caverns is super awkward as just a generic draw. We have plenty of uses for generic mana, though. I do like it in the deck. And opponent is holding up Spell Pierce again. As much as I'd like to collect a Brutality and go look, I'm just going to run out Sig and potentially drain them for 2 and hit them for 1 next turn. Or opponent's F6'd. I cannot get a read on what opponent's doing here. They're probably just getting a shock, but the sequencing seems off. Alright, well, if they have white, that means Ascendancy's coming down here. Then Collective Brutality, escalate, discard the Gemstone Caverns, chip in for 1, draw an additional card, get ready to Linvala the following turn. We have a plan. It's not a great plan, but we have a plan. Although, opponent hasn't gotten white yet. Alright, well, that's what I like to see. So we have to keep the 4th land. Gonna take a shock here. When the opponent kills us, they kill us with something big. I'm not super concerned about the life totals. I guess it doesn't matter yet because we're not doing anything this turn. I was just trying to sequence to get my land drops correctly. Alright, we need more black than anything else, so it's going to be Watery Grave. Then Collective Brutality. If I kill the bird and drain, I'm going to draw a card of Sig, which seems like super good upside. If I Duress, it can potentially get rid of a kill spell for Linvala, mainly Cut. If I do 3 modes, it means I'm discarding Wrath and leaning really hard on the back of this Linvala, but I have a Duress. I think we're doing all 3. So, discard Wrath and a land. At an Echoing Troth and an EE. What an awkward hand. Well, on the plus side, we weren't doing much better. So go to end step, they lost 3 life, so we'll draw a card, and we got Brimaz, so we have a real clock now. So EE for 2 to get rid of Sig. Oh, they got the Ascendancy. Alright, well they can start looting away some of the extra lands. So, Brimaz is a 3/4 Vigilant. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you get a 1/1 Cat Soldier doing the exact same thing he's doing. Linval's going to make it so that they can't activate the abilities of creatures. They currently have no creatures. I'd like to be able to get this Aether Vial up since our Flash engine ended up getting removed down here. Not being able to draw this turn is sad with Sig, but our opponent is on a light hand. So I think first things first, let's get in with Sig. Take opponent down to 13. Then this Polluted Delta is going to have to get a white source for Brimaz and then cast the Aether Vial off the island. Discarding Wrath may have been a mistake, but it was just really hard to make that call with the current knowledge that we had. We didn't know opponent had 3 lands in hand when we drew us a 4-card hand. So getting the Hollowed Fountain for our last white source we need, and Brimaz comes down. Legendary Kitty himself. This guy was a beast. He just doesn't do anything super impactful. He does a lot of damage. He's really good at blocking. He controls the board fairly well, but just getting an additional cat token doesn't do enough to actually validate his reasoning to be in most decks. Like the card he's up against is Thick Thalia over here on the left that basically slow rolls your opponent for a full turn, gets rid of blockers. Alright, what you got, opponent? Because you haven't gotten rid of a Fate Stitcher yet. I guess I should be explaining that out. Alright, so EE was worth it for Brimaz. Well, I don't believe they can blow it this turn. Alright, they got rid of a land. Might mean some action. Oh, they can blow it this turn. Oh well, if that's a 5 mana time walk, I'm fine with that. I really want to draw off Sig, but if that's where we're at, that's where we're at. Oh, they also get rid of their Ascendancy! Okay, that was a punt from opponent. This might be a shame scoop. Although that was the island that they drew. They might have 2 pieces of gas in hand, but it feels unlikely. Getting rid of our Brimaz was not high enough upside for that. Oh boy. Alright, well, I want to draw. I think drawing is better than looking at their hand and seeing exactly how much of nothing is going on. So we'll drain for 2, put them down to 10, draw a card with Sig. And draw Easy Maru. Oh, look at that. So good at this game. Easy Maru, 1 mana, 2/2, Legendary Hound. Bark, bark, bark. Alright, so Serum Visions drew him a fresh card. They're going to have to be on Sylvan Caryatid to not make us draw an additional card this turn. Alright, well, Barkady's in. Mr. Easy Maru. Oh, and we can even prevent damage to our creatures now, too. Amazing. Although, we want to tap our single colors. Now you can't activate the abilities of your Fate Stitcher, of your Birds of Paradise, your Sylvan Caryatid. You have to have Cut for Linvala. Alright, well they cashed out a land for Jeskai Ascendancy. You get a Sierra land. Sculpt a wee bit. But you have to find Cut for Linvala, and you're currently 1 damage off of dead on table. This is when you want a Goryo's Vengeance? Oh, too good to be true. And our Legendary Land Suite is allowing us to prevent 2 damage to a legendary creature, untap a legendary creature, and fear a legendary creature. Opponent's got to cut Linvala, loot into a Fate Stitcher, bring it into play. Oh, they can't even cut because of Vijano. And it turns off Fetch Lands and Shock Lands. Alright, so they're going to make this into a creature, and they're going to hopefully get mana off of it. So I'm going to make sure that we untap... Actually, that won't work because Linvala already makes it so that they can't tap for mana. Okay, well, now it doesn't tap for any mana. And when you can't tap for mana, there's the concession. Alright, well, we took the first game. And that feels like a pretty rough matchup for us because we don't have any specific targeted hate. We don't really have a way to interact with the combo. I guess we could technically have something like Disenchant in our sideboard. Potentially Echoing Truth, just to make it so that they have a little bit more interaction, but this is a Timmy deck. We're here to play with legendary cards. So our sideboard has Urza's Ruinous Blast, which did come in pretty clutch. Stony Silence, Rip. When you bring in Rip, you typically have to take out Goryo's Vengeance, Kataki, just because it's a legend that deals with artifacts. Ooh boy, and this is awkward. So we have a turn 1 Aether Vial, and then we have a turn 4 Kalitas or Tasigur. Well, we need to get to 3 drops on the Vial, and we have a couple of fetch lands to populate the graveyard for Tasigur. I think this is worth keeping. Hopefully it's a little bit of a slower matchup, because we're not going to get very far off of Aether Vial. We're going to look a lot like Merfolk / Spirits with this start. Probably Merfolk just because of the basic. And they're on Ghost Quarter. So super awkward hand from Taxes or Amulet Titan or Control, maybe? I don't know. If your opponent starts off with an island and an Aether Vial, do you really Ghost Quarter it? We're still going to be able to make our creature drops, and if we run out of an island, it means we probably have at least another basic. Maybe that was just a misclick and they wanted to put out a colored source. This could be any number of collected company decks, especially with Knight of the Reliquary. And you typically want these in your graveyard after you already have a value creature. Okay. Alright, so as much as I want to get 2 fetch lands in the graveyard that'd be 4 mana, oh my gosh. Okay, this can come down after I have enough to pay for the Ghost Quarter bounce. I think for now, though, just going to run it back. And opponent will have no idea what we're on at this point, because Marsh Flats doesn't go into any deck that has an island. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. We have a very awkward draw for our deck, and the opponent started on a Ghost Quarter. If I had to bet, I would say that this is probably... Oh my gosh, like, I don't even know. It might be... I assume it has to be Eldrazi, and just expect to have a Leonin Arbiter or a Thalia. But opponent's definitely slow rolling. Yeah, I don't know what opponent's doing. And now they're tanking on a second Aether Vial. Alright, well, super dry content. Tasker does feel like a little bit of a non-bow in this deck. We do have a couple of cards that we care about being in the graveyard. Gorya's Vengeance, we care about Izareth to reanimate things, we care about Lazov to make a copy of them. Tasker is going to allow us to delve away our graveyard that typically has creatures in it. He also makes it so that we stock our graveyard. It is nice when we have a hand pretty similar to this one with 2 Aether Vials. Excuse me. That we can start using our mana to activate Tasker to get some actual card advantage off of him. So he's 5 and a black. With Delve, you can pay Delve by exiling a card from your graveyard to pay for a colorless. Then after he comes into play, you can pay 4 mana to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then your opponent returns 1 to your hand. So we could potentially Delve him out and start activating him with the 4 mana we have here. Get a little more card advantage to make up for the fact that Kalatos on turn 5 off of Aether Vial is probably going to be our best bet after Tasker comes down. We also get, like, I'm expecting it to come up in one game where we just Gorya's Vengeance in an Audric and get all the keywords in our deck and just win on the spot. But Tasker's strength is typically in the fact that you get to craft your graveyard to get something that you would want back, and then you rely on the top 2 cards either being something decent or potentially just land, so you get back the 1 card that you want. If he sits out, it gives you something to do with your mana, like if we have Wrath out and we're flashing, we could potentially be holding up interaction, and control-less, it usually means that you can hold up counter spells, and then if you don't have to use it, you can activate Tasker, get some card advantage, basically just put your opponent on the back foot while just taking advantage of the fact that they're not doing anything. Kalatos, if non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead, and you get a zombie token. You can sack the zombie or vampire to get 2/1 counters on them. It's just a good way to make sure that graveyard shenanigans stop. It also gives you lifelink. 3/4 is actually super relevant body in Modern. Oh, opponent disconnected from the game. That would actually explain that. Right here. So, I mean, I could comment on some of the other specific card choices. This deck actually did mess up my website because some of the card names are super long because, of course, Legends have long names that describe what they are. So I can pull this up and you can see that like it ran over 2 lines and gave me double spacing. We do have some fun cards here. Izumaru was the first vanilla legendary, a 1-mana 2/2. Since then, things have gotten significantly better. Like, we've actually gotten the new Kythian. Oh, it's a split card. It didn't show up. I need to fix that. Let me make a quick note of that. Fix Kythian. So Kythian is 1-mana 2/1 with the activated ability to get indestructible. If you attack with 3 creatures, including him, he flips over into Gideon the Battle Hardened. Funny enough, being able to untap a creature with his +1 is very synergistic with our deck. It's part of the reason that we end up running the legendary land that will untap a creature. This guy works really well with things like Marike. Brim, as we saw, is a powerhouse. Our opponent ended up blowing their EE, getting rid of the Jeskai Ascendancy just to try to keep this at bay. Afara is a creature that can come down off of a vial on 4. It's not going to be active in most situations unless we have a board with critical mass, but whenever a creature enters in the enchantment state, we'll still draw a card. So pretty good value there. Venzer will bounce a spell or a permanent. Daxos will steal a card off the top of their deck, let us gain some life, as well as being pseudo evasion. Geist is just a powerhouse and controlless where it's hard to interact with him. In playtesting, I actually had Geist of Saint Taft with Shizo to give it fear, so it was unblockable, and then you get the 4/4 Angel coming in without risking attacking in with the Geist. Just super good combo. Audric will give all the keywords, well, most keywords shared with all of your creatures to all creatures on the table at your combat step. Riz is a card that was a decent mana sink, as well as being a 1-mana legendary for our Mox Amber. Just some synergies that could potentially come up. Getting enough mana to start activating this, get chump blockers every turn. If it's a long drawn out game and we can start cloning all the copies that we made, we can just end up getting some advantage and go wide. Tasker's got the Delve. Drana is a way for us to grow our creatures, as well as being evasion. Getting out of Bolt of Lightning range with the first attack is pretty strong. Being able to use it in and grow your entire team by 1 will make it so that combat's a little more awkward. In playtesting, I actually had an interaction with Eiley where I had Lazov copying an Eiley in my graveyard to try to blow up Ghostly Prison against the Prison enchantment list. I was sacking my creatures and using Lazov to copy them to get relevant abilities, and then get up to 3 mana to sack a creature to exile a Ghostly Prison and Sphere of Safety. Just a lot of utility there, good way to gain life, also a good way for unconditional removal in the long games. Hope of Gearpore will make it so that we can prevent an opponent from going off if we just need to buy 1 more turn. Gonti steals a card. Well, if our opponent hasn't come back yet, I might just be running out of stuff that I can actually bring up here. So there are a lot of fun cards here. Aetherius will get creatures back. Izareth will reanimate. This will actually give us critical mass on board, but oh, there we go. Opponent's done. So, not really sure what to make of that. We got a free win out of it. I don't know if it was just a awkward hand, if opponent just disconnected and was done. I know Comcast took me out last week when I was trying to record Bogles. But I guess we'll take the 2-0 so far. Didn't really deserve that one. Like I said, this deck is underpowered humans. I'd be very surprised if we 5-0. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we 2-3. We kind of just stole the Jeskai Ascendancy one because they blew up their board. But we do have a lot of powerful cards and a lot of weird synergies and fun lines, so I could see some fun stuff happen. And this hand is looking about as good as I'd want for this deck. So turn 1 Aether Vial is always strong. We can lead into like an Eiley that's a Death Toucher. We have Lazov to basically get whatever effect we want off of these guys back. Afara will give us some ability to go long. But we have 3 powerful 2-drops in an Aether Vial. Good enough for me. Let's grab this window back. And we are playing against Death's Shadow. A little more awkward, but getting a quick sig out would be able to help a bit. Alright, so they're looking at themselves, which means they have a fetch land, and they're trying to determine if they want to keep it or not. And they're actually Death Shadow Zoo, not just Death Shadow. Yep, you get to draw your card, sir. And what does this mean? I can go get an island, a swamp, be able to hard cast Sig. I kind of want to keep my life total low just because they can apply a lot of pressure, and if this is Zoo, it means that we're going to have Monastery Swift Spears and Mutagenic Growths and all the fun stuff in our life. So I'm going to represent the least damage line, and then Sig will make it so that they can't fetch and shock without allowing us to draw a card, unless they kill Sig. If they have discard for Sig, that'll be sad, but Lazov will at least be able to come in and make a copy of him. Eiley being able to block a Death Shadow while killing it is quite good. If this is Zoo, though, it means that they're on Team or Battle Rage, so Double Striking Trample might be in our future. Battle Rage will at least give Double Strike, even if it's tiny, so we'll be able to kill Eiley before Death Touch takes in. And this is definitely the Death Shadow Zoo. I actually feel like I've played against this guy a decent amount. The name looks really familiar. There's the Nicodle. Well, opponent hasn't tried to Thoughtseize us yet, so that's good. This will go get my swamp. And then Sig comes down. If they crack here, that's going to be smart for them. If they don't, it means that they can't take the shock without allowing us to draw a card. They're going to have to go get a Plains for this Nicodle to be a 3/3. So it means that Verdant Catacombs will need to be cracked now. Or it will just come in tapped, and then they can't play a Death Shadow, so okay. That works. Do you have a Fatal Push? Oh, never mind. They could do that in-step. I was wondering why more people didn't play Sig. It seemed like such a good card. So they get to do it now, and they won't let us draw a card. Oh well. Oh, they didn't even take the shock. Alright, well, we have some beats in our future. I'm expecting a Swift Spear into potentially a Become Immense. The Battle Rage here is only going to hit for 6, where they could Death Shadow and actually have lethal. We have some good creatures for this matchup, but I don't think that we drew any of them. Alright, there's the Swift Spear. And a Battle Rage will kill Sig. Don't really want to do that. Become Immense will end up hitting us for 11 here. Battle Rage will be 8. I think right now the plan is to run out Lazov with a tap shock land, be able to flash an Eiley and block one of their bigger creatures. So opponent definitely has some kind of buff spell in hand. They're trying to figure out if they can run it out. But they're not ready to commit yet. And they don't have a Death Shadow for us. Interesting. Alright, so as much as I actually like this line, I like the ability to sack a creature to gain life off of Eiley, so I think I'm going to run out a fetch land. We can Lazov here, and then flash in Eiley. If we need to sack a creature to gain some life, we can. The odds our opponent goes in super low on life to the point that we can kill them is super low, but Lazov will hopefully scry us into something that actually is relevant in this matchup. Sorry, Surveil, not scry. Marike. What does Marike mean? So we can gain control of a Nicodle, that will be a 2/2. We can gain control of a Swift Spear, that will never grow. We can take a Death Shadow and potentially kill it, but that means that we're 2 turns away from casting it. Lazov actually could have been a Marike this turn if we would have put it in, but that's fine. I think we just want it in the graveyard, and then I can always just take control of a Death Shadow that they commit on, assuming we leave up mana. This is where this deck gets a lot of really weird interactions, because Lazov will become a copy of Marike, and it won't have Summoning Sickness, so we can just gain control, and then we could actually... Oh my gosh, does that work? So... Marike doesn't untap during your untap step. If it's not a Marike anymore, does it just get destroyed, or do we permanently keep it? I'm not actually sure how that works. But these are the fun interactions I was discovering with this deck, is there's a lot of very powerful effects that I wasn't quite expecting. Meanwhile, I think I'm quite happy to trade Eiley for the Monastery Swift Spear. Or potentially put Sig in front of the Monastery Swift Spear. And become immense off of the Stomping Ground, and a Battle Rage off of this is just lethal for us, so there's not much to be said there, but... Lazov can also become a copy of Eiley, just get Death Touch again. Couple of different lines that we can take. Alright, so there's a free prowess trigger for the Swift Spear. Sacks it targeting themselves, so they must have another fetch land. An opponent has done 0 damage to themselves this turn. This actually might be pacing them a little bit. Alright, so this means Eiley comes in. I really want Eiley to trade with the Swift Spear, but I don't think I can let this go through. They must have a Lightning Bolt. They're trying to figure out if killing Eiley is the correct step here or not. Alright, well... So if they have become immense, +6/+6, it becomes a 9/9. Double strike, we're dead, even through blockers. So I think this is just the best I can do. Because alternatively, it's Lazov and Sig in front of this. They get their pick of what to kill, and then we have to sack the other one just to survive. But if they have it, we're just dead. They have 2 cards in hand. It's unlikely they don't, but... we have to put them to the test. It's the only way it's going to happen. Unfortunately, our devotion right now is only 4. This would be 5, 6. Our indestructible Afar is not in play yet. And losing Eiley is going to reduce that by 1. Although copying Marike is going to give us another white off of Lazov. Yeah, hopefully we just draw a 3 mana Azorius colored thing. Mutagenic growth on the Swift Spear? It has Death Touch, which means they've got to have Battle Rage. This is going to make it have Trample as well, but that would have happened with just the Battle Rage, and Death Touch wouldn't get to it. I don't understand the sequencing here. But it means that they don't have Become Immense, which is good. Just the Battle Rage. Battle Rage will make it a 6/6. 3 is going to go here, which means 9 goes over. Oh boy, 12 goes over. So probably sacking Sig here. I think they paid mana for this, though, because they don't want us to draw off of Sig. They have a very quick game plan, and they can't really grind it out very hard, so... I should have ran out the Flooded Strand so we could just get a Plains. Well, that's fine. I'm 100% okay with everything that just happened there. So this needs to be black and white. No shock. He gets his replacement card. That he already knew about. Does that change what I thought about that exchange? Probably not enough. Alright, so... he's not going to have Surgical main board. I can Marike for 3, and I can't make it a copy of Eiley yet. So I can run out of Farah, but my devotion will only be 5. Unless I make it Marike, then it'll be 6. It looks like I want a tap land. And I probably want another white source. And I want Sig back just in case they have another Monastery Swift Spear. Lazov's going to become a copy of Marike and steal the Wild Nicatl. I'd love a Goryo's Vengeance right now, though. Goryo's Vengeance can just bring back Marike. I can steal one of their creatures, destroy it. Make a copy of Eiley, sack it, get it back in the graveyard. Be able to copy it the following turn. It is worth noting for our opponent that Lazov here will become a copy of something in the graveyard, and I can threaten to make it a Death Touch at any given point in time. Yep, there's the Monastery Swift Spear. Lightning Bolt on Lazov. So that means Lazov's going to become a copy of Marike. Marike is going to become a copy, or is going to steal Wild Nicatl. Then, if I'm understanding this correctly, until Marike leaves battlefield or becomes untapped, then destroy that creature. So we're not going to actually destroy the creature, so I think I permanently own this Wild Nicatl now. Oh, nope. Well, took away its... Okay, I don't understand why he got control of it back before it died, but alright. Then Afara can come in for free off the Vial, and we get Thick Thalia. Alright, Thalia comes down, Devotion's going to be 3, 4, 5, still not a creature yet, but Afara's text says, at the beginning of each upkeep, if you had another creature enter the battlefield under your control last turn, which means we're going to go to end step, see if opponent wants to path Thalia. I don't believe their list runs it, but it'll be there just in case. Guess they don't care, which means Afara comes in. And then at the upkeep, we get a draw card. Afara, no devotion means it just becomes an enchantment. Nice little interaction with Aether Vial there, being able to drop it in for free. It'd be really nice if we had like a Dryad Arbor type effect in this deck. The fetch lands when you flood out feels super bad, but I don't really know what else to make of that. And we get Thin Thalia, which is actually pretty decent here. It means we can put up 5 first strike damage as defenders. Opponent has also gone through the first 19 cards of their deck without playing a Death Shadow yet. Sir Gleif. Alright, so they left up red here. I'm expecting a Lightning Bolt, which means that this Thalia is going to be able to fetch that out before attacking. Ooh, Vendilion Click's also a pretty good one, so I should have fetched. And I put Aether Vial to 5. Not in the headspace at the moment. Okay, so white, black, although I want to leave up the blue source. Thalia. Do you have a bolt opponent? Guess not. Then if they don't want us to draw a card off of Sig, they have to chump block here. Then I don't have another island, which means ooh, I have to take the shock. That's painful. But we're going to go to... We're going to draw a card here. Alright, so Goryo's is awesome here. It means that we get back Marike, worst case situation. It also means that we don't have to put this Vendilion Click in as just a death blocker. Beginning of upkeep, we'll draw thanks to Afara. Then end step, we can Goryo's Vengeance. We'll get another draw off of Afara as well, being able to remove a creature. Oh boy, if they have Teamer Battle Rage, I could die here. I don't have a way to untap Marike to get 2 effects out of her. Do I want to V-click and look for the Battle Rage, or do I want to Goryo's? I think I'm on Goryo's if they actually Battle Rage. Okay, never mind. They only put 1 creature in, so we're Goryozing. So bring in Marike. Fair Goryo's Vengeance. Who would have thought? Alright, so Afara became a creature, so I'm actually going to move Afara to be a blocker here. That should just be a free kill. And then I can Marike take the Monastery Swift Spear. Let it be known, though, that we used a Goryo's Vengeance as a kill spell. We used Goryo's Vengeance as a flash blocker and a kill spell. That's why this deck is fun. This deck gives you a lot of lines that aren't exactly obvious. Like, opponent's got to be figuring out exactly how they're dead here, because we're currently sitting on the table for 11 damage. That's really hard to deal with. We also have a Vendilion Click. Thanks to Afara, we're going to be drawing on our next upkeep. Okay, so Mutagenic Growth is going to make it a 6/7 and survive this combat step. I'm actually okay with that. I don't care, because with this Thalia out, they have to have a different chump blocker in their main phase. Otherwise, we just kill them. Alright, so this is where we gain control of the Swift Spear, and we have lethal on the table, and they don't have anything they can do with this Thalia, so... Oh, I get it. This is a triggered ability from Marike to destroy it after you give up control of it. Alright, so we get to draw a card with a Afara, and we get another Goryo's Vengeance. Oh, I love this deck. No, I'm already at oh my gosh, that is amazing. Alright, so I don't even really want to show it to my opponent. So here I'm going to Vendilion Click because it gives me more information. It's also going to bring Afara into play here. Yeah, you can have all that. Putting out Arvad is just super overkill. Like, we'd end up obliterating our opponent. They'd probably lose more than 20 life in that swing, but they don't need to know that we have it. Okay, so Collective Brutality to take Battle Rage seems fantastic. Urza's Ruinous Blast to kill their blockers when we get up there seems pretty good. Lyra to gain us some life is fantastic. Linvala doesn't stop. Mishra's Bauble, it also doesn't stop. Become Immense. Become Immense is a very awkward draw for them. There might be an argument for Rest in Peace there, but I'm not a huge fan of it. That's why Lavinia's here, because it can't just delve and free cheat in off of Become Immense. This is easier destroyed, but I don't care. Flash is actually quite good in this matchup, so I'm going to keep Raffin. Audric requires critical mass. If we have a big board, we're probably just going to win like we did that last game. Brimaz is pretty solid with all their little zooey creatures, not so good with Death Shadow, but we don't have a lot of good pieces for that. One thing this deck is missing is the creature interaction. We don't really have Path to Exiles, Reflector Mages. This was Timmy on flavor for Oops All Legends, so we're kind of just going with what we've got here. Marike is pseudo removal. We have some pretty good blockers and Mangara's removal, but this is Highlander. Like, be cool. Kira is going to save us from bolts. Vendilion Click is a little awkward, but it's a flyer. In case they go low on life, we can just flash it in and finish it off. Same reason Raph is there. We're not going to be reanimating. I clicked on the wrong card for that. Izareth is whenever it attacks, you may pay X, but it has Death Touch, so it's sticking in. I do actually want to cut Drana. Being a 2/3 first striker is not great. Being able to grow our attackers is great, but when the idea is to grow the attackers to be able to block their Nacatls, that is horrible, especially for 3 mana. This being able to give all of our creatures first strike is tempting, but it's probably overboarding. Daxos is... Which side of that can't be blocked? With 3 or greater? Yeah, Daxos has to make the cut. Then Geist can't get in through a lot of attackers. Hope of Gearpore doesn't do anything except for delay a turn. And last but not least... Probably Arvad. I accidentally took my Vial up, otherwise he would have been a terrible draw last game. Plus he's expensive. Just lower the curve, make it leaner. Do all the things. Alright, so we have an Aether Vial, a Death Toucher, a way to bring back the Death Toucher, a way to ramp to our more expensive creatures, and mana drops. I actually think this is fine. This is a horrible, horrible hand, but I think it's fine. Because we're going to be able to Death Touch block 2 creatures. And then if we draw something like a Lyra, we can just run it out on turn 3. If we get Thought Seized, I'll be sad. Okay, no Thought Seized. This looks like a Nicatl or a Swift Spear. Sequencing there, they would have wanted Prowess, so it would have been a Nicatl. Okay, they're just trying to lose life? Interesting. Alright, our lands. I want 2 potential white sources, although this makes me want 2 potential black sources. So I can go get a Godless Shrine, take the shock, play Aether Vial, run this out, and then if we draw another black source, I can Kalatos on turn 3. Or if I don't, I can just Hollowed Fountain with another shock. Oh boy, that's a lot of life. And run out Eiley, but Eiley will probably save us against more life than that. Kalatos is also lifelink and bigger than the majority of their creatures. Alright, we're paying a lot of life in lands this game. Not great against the aggro zoo deck, but some concessions need to be made. It also looks like they're on a little bit of a slower draw. They're either on Death Shadows or Termaglyphs. Eiley is also fantastic against Termaglyphs. Kalatos is really good against the rest of it. So we can Eiley next turn, or we can Untai Dake. I'm not saying that right. I'm so not saying that right. Untai Dake would mean another black source is a Kalatos. Otherwise, we can Hollowed Fountain and Eiley. Untai Dake turn 4 Kalatos, which isn't great. But if we Untai Dake, that means turn 3 Eiley with mana for Kalatos or Goryo's, depending on what opponent does. Alright, well, the jig's up. We'll figure out what they want to do. I'm assuming it's Goryo's here. If they discard Kalatos, we can just Goryo's them in. If they discard Eiley, I guess Eiley's not a permanent threat if they take it. But they know we have the Goryo's now. I just have to imagine when you thought sees a hand like this, you're like, what the heck is going on? You have some random Battle for Zendikar mythics in your hand. Well, I guess this is rare. Absolutely nothing else. This land I've never seen before. But the keywords are so frustrating to play against, especially because you don't know what's coming. Alright, so taking Kalatos means that Goryo's Vengeance is technically on the table as a live draw. I think I'd prefer to just hardcast Eiley if that's the case, and oh, perfect time to draw that after the Thoughtseize, so they don't know it's coming. So, show me the Bolt, opponent. Show it to me. You left red up. No Bolt. Alright. I'm happy so far. This King Caster says Ruinous Blast. Oh boy. Opponent. That's gonna be so painful. And then next turn we could just leave up Goryo's Vengeance on Kalatos while we chump block with a Death Toucher. Although that means that we won't be able to sack Kalatos to Eiley, so Kalatos will be gone forever, but... Oh, goodbye. I suppose that's fine. If you're not putting pressure on us, then I don't care. Although, I can't cast Urza's Ruinous Blast now without, like, super cheating. Although, Mangar is also a pretty decent pickup. So, opponents acting like they're on a super interactive hand. If I Untake, that means that I can flash in Mangara and then cast Urza's Ruinous Blast with opponent not knowing what's up. If I just Mangara now, it means that Ruinous Blast is a couple of turns away. But I can also hold up removal. I think I'd rather cheat this into play because we do have the Vial here for a reason. We're giving our opponent this turn, which could potentially mean Monastery Swift Spear into Become Immense with a Teamer Battle Rage. because that's all I can imagine is in their hand at this point because of how little they've done so far. Lame. Alright, so they have to take Urza's Ruinous Blast here or Mangara and just hope we don't pull another legendary or get 2 more mana. I have no idea what's going on our opponent's side. They might have overboarded and just taken out too much of their game plan or just had the most awkward zoo draw in the world. Zoo's supposed to mean creatures, and I've seen none of them. But opponent's also running pretty far down on time. Like, we have a 10-minute gap on them, and this wasn't even the opponent that disconnected. They can technically win pretty quick, but that means they have to win this game and like speed through the next one. Meanwhile, we have multiple things that are fun and explosive. Alright, so Mangara's gone. That means that we can Mangara exile something and then Urza's Ruinous Blast. Okay. I love this deck. Alright, so Shizo can make something Fury. I think I'd rather just not show opponent what we drew and ship it back like this. Because if they put out a single threat, Mangara's coming in and exiling it. If they put out a big threat, probably Kalatos is coming out at end step, and then during our turn we can Urza's Ruinous Blast and just chip in for 3. There's a Death Shadow. Alright, so do they not know how this works? I thought we did it to him against... I thought we did it to them in game 1. Well, they're not low enough yet that Kalatos will just cover it himself, and I want to stay on 3. Most of our drops are at 3. Alright, so what does this mean? I can Urza's Ruinous Blast, but that would mean Mangara is the last thing down here. I won't have a permanent threat. Wait, can I not cast this with Legendary Land? That doesn't make much sense. Alright, well I guess we're on Goryo's Vengeance then. The opponent cannot hit us for anything higher than 12 without needing to buff the creature first. So Mangara can come in at the point when they actually buff it if they go in this turn. Oh boy. I'm going to give it one more turn. All right. If only this were Minimo, then I could untap Mangara and get 2 activations. Instead, this Goryo's Vengeance is leaving me with a temporary card. On the plus side, though, they can't really interact with it. Monastery Swiftspear here would be super awkward. As long as opponent's tanking, they're running out of time. You don't want to win off of time, but when you have a 10-minute lead on the opponent, like, you're kind of happy to take it. Yeah, they did the weird bug where it goes up a ton of time and value. And I'm going to try to sequence this in a way that opponent can actually try to remove Mangara, because we've had a couple that don't quite understand how this works. I mean, they weren't really under pressure to do anything there, but this also means the creature is blocked if they have anything that's not trample. Alright, they had another one. We want to tick up that one, not this one yet. Oh boy. And that is quite awkward. So I'm going to duress because that's going to be the easiest way that we die here. Oh boy, so we are just like uber dead. Fun, fun, fun. I was right about their hand though. Battle Rage is probably the pick here, and they know it's in our hand, so GG's. If I really wanted to push the timer, I could have just let them actually kill us, but that seems quite bad. Maryland actually seems quite interesting here for a potential make them lose their last 3 life. I'm not the biggest fan of that concept, though. We were low on creatures, but we have 24. I think we just had a super bad draw. Maybe Brutality's not the best. We're on the play, though, which means we can kill turn 1 Nacatl or Swift Spear. Yeah, that seems fine for the play. I should have not had this on the draw, though. Oh, boy. So, I don't even have white for Izumaru. Turn 1 Violet, turn 2 Lazov, and a turn 5 Lyra if I top deck 2 lands. That helps. So, free land, Vile, go opponent. So this means turn 2 Lazov, turn 4 Lyra. I'd love a Brutality here. I mean, I know I just put a Mox on top of the deck, but... Alright, and I have to take a shock as it is, but I need my white source, so... Gonna go ahead and go get the Godless Shrine to just fill in the colors. Although I need black. Lazov, Cervelle for me. Riz, straight to the graveyard. Do not want you, buddy. Although I do want Mox Amber out, just in case I have to copy Riz for some ridiculous reason. Riz can create chump blockers for a little while. In fact, that might be our next turn. It might be correct to copy Riz. Anything opponent has that can kill my creatures is going to be at least 3 damage, so Lazov is dead anyway. It'll also give me white to actually hardcast Lyra. Alright, opponent has their Death Shadow. They started ticking their life total down pretty quickly. Really? Okay, that's going deep. Nothing Lazov can do to protect himself, which means I need a white legendary and another land in my top 2 draws, and not to die to this Death Shadow. This one looks like it's slipping away. Although Gonti helps. I can't cast Gonti. Okay, yeah, Lazov, you need to survive, little buddy. Alright, so if opponent can't kill us here, that means it's statistically relevant that we have Violent 3, because it's going to be the most likely we can drop a legendary. When we drop a legendary, that means we're going to get Gonti. But we're probably just dead. Opponent F6. Yep, that's game. Well, that was unfortunate. I actually think we probably could have taken that if they didn't have just like their nut hand. We did take a game against them, though. That's not nothing. Currently 2-1. Although one was a freebie. Alright, so this is a turn 1 Izimaru into a Mox Amber into an Aether Vial, and at the top end we get Arvad to make Thick Thalia and Izimaru threats. Well, we get to show our opponent our nut draw here, so I'm on board. It's going to be Izimaru, Mox Amba, now we just need a Mox Diamond. Our artifact density isn't actually high enough to justify that, but I did consider it just because I thought it would be funny. We end up running 4 Aether Vials, the Mox Amber, and I think that's it. Plus we have Stony Silence in our side. Oh, that is amazing! Okay, so this might actually be the hand that we lived and died for. Thick Thalia, just in case they have a Memnite or something stupid with a mutagenic growth. Like, it's not going to happen, but this is going to make it so that anything they try to block with is not viable. And then we need to top deck a land. Top decking a land will allow us to object, giving all of our creatures first strike, and then if we get up to Arvad, they'll all have first strike, lifelink, and death touch. After playing a couple of the last games where we were like controlling and grinding our opponents out with a Phara and then coming in with just this super taxes nut draw, this deck is very different. Okay, is this Vile Phoenix? That can't be right. So it's a creature deck. Snow covered is probably just an aesthetic choice. Steam Vents means it's not. Merfolk. Just give me a land. I'd love a land. Lame. Alright, well. We're not even very close to casting Venser. So they're definitely a creature deck, but they're blue and red, so they're probably not spirits, they're probably not merfolk. They could potentially be illusions. Oh, this should answer it. Merfolk with red. Okay. I know way back in the day Merfolk was toying with splashing red for Bolt just because it's such a good card. This seems super awkward though. Oh boy, that is what you want to see, especially before you can flash an Audric. Everything will be flying first strike. Okay, so Vile here is really threatening that they need to do something. They haven't seen any blue from us, which means that this Kira should be a giant surprise. We look like an aggro taxes list. Yeah. Alright, and there's no way there's just no way I'm going to allow Izimaru to trade with Curse Catcher, so first strike comes in, next turn they're all going to be flying first strike whenever this creature becomes a target of spell or ability first time, counter that spell or ability. And then we can Venser to bounce a problem, or we can just Audric and probably win the game. So Audric would end up being 5, 6, 7. Yeah, Audric won't get us there unless they shock themselves, which I don't think they can with Thalia. Yep, so they had the Bolt, and they didn't use it because they were expecting... They weren't expecting Kira. You never expect the Kira out of the Black-White Legends list. Alright, Alright, so if we get a land, that means we can Odric and then Venser, and then the following turn they're all just massive and lifelinky. Yeah, that's fine. We'll take our 7 this turn. I don't think opponent knows that we had 2 lands and we have a 5-drop and 2 4-drop stuck in hand. And they must have known that we needed blue. Alright, so yeah. I was about to say, if opponent's attacking in with Master, it means that they have another Master in hand ready to flash in. I'll be much happier to make that exchange in the following turn. Land? Please, sir, I'd love a land. Oh, that's a land. Alright, and as soon as they already have Island Walk... Oh, I need to get a Watery Grave, but that can be quite painful. I don't have Lifelink until the following turn. So I can get a Godless Shrine, bounce the Spreading Seas. Actually, at that point, I'd probably just get... How much damage am I currently taking? So I'm at 7, 10, 13, so I'm dead. If they have a 3-mana Lord, which seems unlikely, but if they do, I can bounce a creature with Venser. I'll be taking 6 less damage. I think I'm just taking the island. For Odric. And this happens at the beginning of each combat. You share all the keywords that you have. So I'll be able to swing in for 7 unblockable. And then I'll have Venser on the back end to be able to bounce one of their lords and block with 2 creatures with first strike. And yeah, that all seems fair. Although I can't bounce 2 lords, so I can't block both. Venser feels like pretty safe protection, though. Then if we make it the following turn, everything's going to be massive and lifelink. Yeah, I probably could have left back Izimaru, but they're not going to be able to do anything to my creatures here. Odric actually probably should have come on the ground so that they wouldn't be able to counter Venser. I'm doing this before they draw. This feels like horrible sequencing, though. Okay, well that works. So they'll be able to replay their Lord here off the Aether Vial, but seeing as they had 2 cards in hand and drawing, that seems fine. It means that we're currently only on the table for 7 damage if they replay it. I guess this would have Island Walk again, so we're at 10, but... Arvad is going to be the jankiest finisher I think I've ever ran. All the random legends, all of them. They're adding red for spot removal. It's not going to work. Okay, hard casting the Lord means they might have 1 more, but creatures entering tapped means that they're not going to do anything productive with it. Ooh, that is 1 damage shy, though. Yeah, that might have been a little risky waiting on Venser. I should have just hard cast Odric. Oh wait, that is lethal. Learn to count, dude. Alright. Well, if that wasn't a Flooded Strand, we could have bounced the Spreading Seas and they wouldn't have had unblockable, but that is what it is. So, Urza's Ruinous Blast is fantastic here. It's going to clear all of their creatures because they try to hit critical mass. It's also going to get rid of all their mana dorks. The fact that they're red makes creature removal more likely. I'm not a huge fan of that. There's a reason people haven't been doing it. Riz feels terrible. 1 mana that we're trying to grind with is just bad. Hope of Girapor, they're not really casting non-creatures. We end up getting rid of... Well, Well, we're already at 60. What do we actually want to bring in? So Linval is pretty decent, although that Odric plan is not going to be our future. Lyra feels fantastic. It should be able to trade with a lot of things, or at least start gaining life back for whatever lord they have out. Collective Brutality, I don't think it's worth going in that deep to try to take bolts from them. It might snag an early Curse Catcher, but we don't really run non-creatures anyway, except for the Urza's Ruinous Blast. They might go heavy on Deprive, but I still don't think that's enough reason to bring in Collective Brutality. As far as what we actually want to cut, I don't think I'm not a fan of any of this. Like, Sig's probably going to be the most awkward to pull off to actually draw cards, but he's still fine. He's also a merfolk for whatever relevant reason that might hold in this matchup. Marike can still steal the problems. Athreos will make it so if we are trading creatures in combat. It's not likely, but if we are, we can try to buy them back, so this might be a consideration. Geist might not be getting in, but what does that bring in? Like, trading 3-drops for a 4-drop? Lavinia would be a 2-drop, and it would make it so that they can't... No, it doesn't really do anything. So I think we're just running as is. Ooh, Send Triplets. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. They can't cast spells or activate abilities and plays with their hand revealed. I actually like that. That's going to make them hard for them to interact on our turn. It does die to Bolt, but I think that's better than Athreos because we won't ever be trading creatures. We did go up 2 5-drops, so that's going to be awkward. We also got super mana screwed last game. This is like the spell hand, dream hand. So we can go get a Hollowed Fountain. They'll have Unblockable, but we can go Thalia, hopefully draw into Camball, into Venzer to bounce their Lord. I don't think it does enough. Alright, that's a turn 1 Izimaru into a turn 3 Daxos. Well, it's probably not going to get much better than that. We at least have Fear, and we don't have any impactful creatures to Gorios yet. Turn 1 2/2 is probably not going to get us very far in this matchup because they're going to have a turn 1 1/1 and then a turn 2 Lord. But if the creatures stay small, Izimaru will stay good. And I think I just need a Godless Shrine for Kalitas. But if they stay small, Izimaru's good. If they go big, Daxos will be good. Yeah, Curse Catcher's not going to be great in this matchup, but you do you, opponent. Izimaru! Do your thing. Sick 'em, boy. No, you're supposed to kill that thing. Go after that thing. It'll be lorded next turn. Kill that thing. Whatever, Pup. We are going to have the jankiest Fear Daxos in the world. Yep, you get Island Walk as a watery grave. Who cares? Oh, Brimaz. I needed another white source. Oh well. I always wanted Daxos to work in Standard. He really didn't, but whenever he deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card, you gain life equal to its converted mana cost, and this turn you may cast it as though the mana were any color. I don't imagine there's anything out of their deck I actually want to take, but giving him Fear, or if they drop another Lord, being unblockable to gain some life actually does feel relevant. Izimaru can't block, and whatever. Like, if they want to trade for the Master, they are falling super far behind. Izimaru is just a 2/2 legend for us, where their Lords are going to be how they get their critical mass. Our best 2 draws here would be a land into Urza's Ruinous Blast, just clear their board away. Mutavault is actually going to be a 3/3 unblockable at the given moment. So Shizo here will give a creature Fear. It means they can't be blocked except for black and or artifact creatures. So Shizo can make Daxos unblockable. We'll gain a little life off of it. And Marrow Regery is the play. Interesting. So a lot of the Merfolk lists have been moving away from Rejury just because it's 3 mana and you got a lot of new utility creatures, but if they start chaining off Merfolk next turn, it's going to be really bad for us, and we're going to have to gain some life, otherwise we are just going to die here. So Daxos is unblockable as it is. Because all their creatures are 3 power, hit, reveal, a Mutavault. Okay, well, we just lost then. So I can Kalatos, but these guys are all unblockable. They can hit... Oh, I guess that's not unblockable, but that is. Yep, that's just game. This is kind of coming back to the Legends are going to be weaker than... I think Humans is the best creature deck in the current meta, but it's going to be weaker than creature matchups where they're actually synergistic. You could even see there Merfolk, that opponent was running a non-optimal build just to get access to Lightning Bolt, because interacting with the opponent has such high value, and our current list isn't doing that. This is Timmy. If you're watching this, you probably understand the intent was not to be super competitive, but to play a bunch of different legends. And typically when you build Highlander, the idea is that you're going to test out a lot of different strategies, figure out what you're actually happy to draw, what you're not happy to draw. One of the things I'm noticing is Goryo's Vengeance is not a fair card on its own. They probably just need to be paths because of how recursive the current meta is. Like, being able to path a Phoenix is something that this deck desperately needs. Being able to get rid of a Lord so that they don't have Island Walk and just get free reign on you is something that this deck needs. Oh boy. This hand does nothing. If we had a second white source, I'd probably lean on the back of Brimaz, but Hope of Garapor is only good for stalling a turn against control. We could technically get 2 uses with it, but 4 and 5 drops isn't where we want to be at. Oh boy. Are we on... We're on the play. Otherwise, I'd try to get a white source and Kythian into... Well, that'd only give us Kythian, but... Wow! Yep, let's just go to game 2. May as well run it back, don't know what opponent's doing. But yeah, so Goryo's Vengeance has been an awkward draw. Like, we just saw there that the reanimation plan of Hope of Garapor wasn't going to do anything. We need a little bit more fast mana. The Untadake is not good enough. Entering tapped is actually a huge cost. It basically sets you back for a full turn. And what do we have here? We have a Goryo's, a Brimaz, nothing castable. Wow. What a horrible way to end this. And this is about as good as it's going to get. Do not need Gemstone. We do need some fast mana, though, if we have so many expensive things on our top end. Aether Vial is super awkward when you have multiple 4 and 5 drops. Something like Izumaru is actually fun to get some early beats in, but it doesn't beat the utility of something like a Curse Catcher or the raw power of something along the lines of the Champion of the Parish. I guess I can't yield. I might have to prevent 2 damage to Izumaru. So we do get some fun utility. Minimo with Marike and with... I need to actually look at my list here. Lazov's really good. I guess that was actually the only one that actually had a lot of impact. I must have cut the other one that I thought was useful. But... Alright, so what are we playing against? I probably should have tried to evaluate this. Could be some generic blue Delver list. It could just be an awkward draw for Storm. I don't know, they're spell-based. Could be an awkward draw for Miracles. Funny enough, Minimo will untap Ukitake. So we could potentially get 4 mana off of 2 lands. I guess 3 lands. I guess that's not nearly as good as I was expecting it to be. But we do have some powerful cards. They just don't... Okay, so this is Miracles then. Or potentially just Resto, Wall of Omens. And do I suspect Blood Moon at all? It's a possibility. I need more black, though. So we do get a lot of fun cards. It's just they're not impactful enough for me to actually want to devote my entire strategy to this. Alright, and I'm expecting a Terminus in our near future. I'm going to go all in here, despite the fact it's probably not our best line. Although, let's first get Izumaru in. So if opponent has Path and they've just been sitting on it, then probably Tasigur is going to get pathed here. But if our opponent is stacking Jace into a Terminus next turn, we'll at least be able to flip Kythian and get some value. Our hand has like nothing going on though, which means attacking with 3 creatures to flip Kythian is our best line. The turn 4 1-drop and Tasigur. Awkward. And they're looking for Terminus, so this is definitely Miracles. Although this is their main phase, so they're looking for a land drop. Interesting. Alright. Well, let's get our beats in. And then, so up to 1 target creature an opponent controls attacks him. Untap target creature gets indestructible until end of turn or become a 4/4. We're going to untap Tasigur and make him indestructible. If they do anything, it's going to be exiling, but they showed that they didn't have a path to exile, so I'm just going to get an Aether Vial out so we can cheat on timing for getting our stuff into play. Really? You had a negate? Alright, well, that's fine by me. Right now, these two are threatening lethal. I can still activate Tasigur. Oh, I didn't activate Tasigur. Okay. Well, getting towards the end of the video, I'm getting a little tired. Alright, so Cryptic Tap, Bounce. Yep. And I actually really do want to activate Tasigur here. I'll be able to play Izumaru. Oh, I should have been able to replay Kythian as well. We probably could have taken this. If we lose, it would be because I actually cheated ourselves out of 2 things this turn that were bad. Okay, well that means I can at least replay Hope of Ghirapur. Oh. Derp to derp. And I actually didn't bounce all those cards. I only bounced the 2. So what does this mean? If they have Terminus, I want to have Kythian in hand. If they have Path to Exile, I want to have Kythian in play. They have spent 2 ops and a Cryptic Command to try to draw into Terminus. They likely have 1 in hand and will have 6 mana if they make their land drop next turn. They have not shown us a Path to Exile up until this point, but they did just draw a fresh card. That means that they're probably looking at hard cast Terminus next turn, and I have to make contact in order to sack Hope of Ghirapur, so yeah, I'm just missequencing all over the board. I shouldn't have shocked this in. I should have waited until end step. Here's a Teferi. They're going to tuck Tasigur. Oh, or just Supreme Verdict. So they might be on the old list. But because I did read the board clear, it means that I kept Kythian in hand. Oh, and that might do it. So let's slow roll this a little bit. Or until your next turn, can't cast on creature spells. So if I... Well, I just missequenced again. I should have counted. So Goryo's Vengeance could have activated Tasigur here. I can use Mangara to exile a Planeswalker if they try to tap out for it. But funny enough, they have to deal with our board state before they know they're safe. If I sack Hope of Garapor, it means that Goryo's Vengeance will get through whatever main board negates they're running. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Do you want to get your emblem? Okay. So this means Crucible of Worlds. They only have 1 mana available, which means we can Tasigur, but not activate it. We don't really have a way to buff, which means we'd want to draw into of Advogard or whatever his name is. I can also bring back Mangara and get rid of Crucible of Worlds and expect to play a longer game, but I don't think I have the mental capacity for it at the moment. You have spells? Wow. Alright. Well, Drana seems fair. Not great, but fair. Then that means Drana comes in, holding up Ejanu and Minimo. And there's the Teferi, which is going to tuck the only thing that matters on the board, which is Drana. Or prevent the damage? That seems like bad sequencing, but I don't have anything in hand, so I guess it doesn't matter. And they're drawing with Teferi. Alright. So this is at least going to flip Kithian. Where that happens. They're going to Ghost Quarter, probably Minimo. Alright, so Goryo's Vengeance can bring back Tasker. We'll be able to activate it. Things feel like they're slipping, though. So they're going to have 4 mana available. If they untap 2 of these, they'll have Cryptic, as long as they have a fetchable blue source. Although they have nothing in hand at the moment. Alright, so Kalitas doesn't actually accomplish a lot. Well, attack opponent. We can't sack Hope of Garapor because, well, I guess they'll see 2 cards next turn. But their deck is mostly instant speed. The only thing that we'd be stopping here is Terminus, and they're running Supreme Verdict. They're also running Gideon, which is a little out of flavor. I love this Gideon, but screw it. We're on draw Goryo's Vengeance next turn for Tasker. Otherwise, we're probably not getting anything done because Gideon's gonna prevent damage from Drana. Teferi's gonna attack Kalitas, which means we have to draw Goryo's Vengeance to get instant speed 4 damage. So if this is sorcery, they just can't cast it. They've already used most of their ops. Yep, tucking Kalitas. Prevent the damage from Drana. And, okay. How many more turns do we actually have to Goryo's Vengeance? I guess until they emblem Gideon. Yep, don't really care. Again, don't really care. So if they have an impactful card, it's over. So I think this is our last draw step we're going to give them, which means feel free to take all the lands out. As far as impactful draws, Venzer's kind of there. I guess V-Click's kind of there. Raph is kind of there. But it's basically just... the Goryo's Vengeance. Alright. Well, I guess that is a Raph. Raph will let us cast all of our legends for Flash. If they're on sorcery speed removal, that just means that we have a shot here. Yeah, you should understand, opponent. I don't really care. And if you have a counterspell, this is it. Really? And a land. Alright. Unfortunately, this means Teferi, because Teferi can just tuck him. And we can bluff having another legend in our hand. And now they have to choose between Drana and Raph. Although if they have a board clear, it's just as bad. But they've shown that they don't have an... they don't have a counterspell. And after all this drawing, opponent finally caught up in cards to us. Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. Yeah, so from what I'm seeing so far, Goryo's Vengeance is actually still a win. So I'm just going to stay the course. Because they have 4 turns before we're out of lands that can cast Goryo's Vengeance. I guess 3 now, but it's still 3 lands. Marike. Gain control of target creature isn't actually super relevant here. Oh, and I have to run out the black source. So, Marike is a cold blank, but opponent still hasn't shown us anything that can win the game yet. Cycling Hieroglyphic Illumination when you have that much mana. That's fine. Don't care. Now I care. Yeah, if they would have just done that a long time ago, they would have easily had it. Well, the last game went to Mulligan Oblivion into an opponent that didn't know how to play blue-white control and also couldn't find a finisher. We did get 1 free game, but we're playing Timmy, so fully within expectations of how to get our wins. So this deck, our most explosive hand was the turn 1 Izamaru into a Mox Amber into an Aether Vial, and then we got stuck on lands because we had 4 and 5 drops in our hand against Merfolk. We were even color screwed against Merfolk, and they fixed it for us, and we still ended up losing on that one. That was probably missequencing on my part, just because Venzer had flash didn't mean I should use him off of mana. I should have actually just cast Odric and then attacked in and then had Venzer for the Vial, so I wouldn't have to be concerned about counterspells. So that was my mistake, but it still was our most explosive start, and we still fumbled and died. This deck has so many fun lines, though. Like, every game that we played of our... Geez, how do I even pull that up? Return to details. We ended up playing 4, 7, 8... Well, we played 10 games, and one was a mulligan to death, but of the other 9 games, none of them were identical. This deck did some very fun, unique things, and that's part of the fun of Highlander. Legendary creatures also do some very powerful and specific things. Lazov was an all-star in this deck. Being able to copy something in our graveyard was just... Our opponents had to respect them. We were able to set together a couple of fun combos, nothing to the extent in my dry runs, but the Death Shadow opponent did realize everything that we could do with it and just had to point removal at it. Otherwise, we would have just been able to hard lock him out of that game. Kira was able to stop our Merfolk opponent from bolting us. That just sounds horrible to say, especially because we lost that one. But so much of this was flexible. It does feel like we could tune this. I don't think that's a discussion worth having because spirits and or humans is probably just better. But Audric, 4 mana, too expensive. He could just be a piece of removal. Actually, let me see if I can just pull this up. Let's go to the deck. So, Hope of Ghirapur was bad. Arvad, despite the fact would have actually closed out a lot of games, was just not fantastic. 5 mana is just too much for Modern, especially considering he doesn't have haste, and the only reason he would have been super effective was because we already had Audric, who is worth cutting. Getting a lot of keywords is fun. It's great in Commander. I don't really think that he has a place in Modern, though. Wrath was actually quite good. Being able to cast all of our stuff with Flash was good. Afara was able to get us card advantage out of the Death Shadow. Kalatos has been a part of Jund. Like, he has a home in a lot of different places. He's incidental hate. He's a lot of advantage. He has a relevant body. For 4 mana, he does a lot. Gonti, being able to steal one of our opponent's cards never came up, but being a 2/3 Death Touch was relevant. We would have been able to cast him in the, I believe, Zoo matchup, but we didn't get our last black mana. The mana in this deck was very painful. I tried to go with fetch lands in order to try to round out our curve a little bit, make sure that we could actually go get the lands that we need. A couple of the lands in here are cute. Gemstone Caverns, I don't believe belongs in a 3-color deck. We did actually see it in our mulligans to Oblivion, and we couldn't do anything about it since we were on the play. Untai Dake, I still don't think I'm saying that right, is a fun land, but it needs to enter untapped. If we're paying 2 life to get 2 mana with this much of a strict restriction, it's not worth it. If we look at some of ours, we can't cast Sig, we can't cast Lazov, we can't cast Riz, we can't cast Izumaru or Kithian. We're probably splitting up the mana for everything here except for Thick Thalia. Can't cast Marike. All of these cost 1. All of these cost 2. And then we're probably cutting these. So Untai Dake is probably a cut. It's a really fun card. It seemed like it would work here. It might be better in the slower Super Friends list, but I don't think it's here. Urborg actually does fit the color and flavor of this deck. It might even be a 2 of. We do have a lot of black in this deck. Gorya's Vengeance did feel like a bad card. If we are going to be doing something along the lines of like Gorya's Vengeance with Collective Brutality, it might have been better to put a Grizzlebrand in here, just that we weren't going full Timmy and had a little bit of Johnny in here. That might have been just trying too hard to make something work, but Gorya's fair. I think the takeaway from today is it's not great. At best, we were able to bring in Marike and turn this into a removal spell, or bring in a Mangara and turn it into a removal spell. There was once or twice where I believe we actually tried to bring in Eiley as a blocker with Death Touch. Again, just a removal spell, though. And it's conditional. For 2 mana, it requires a creature to enter, not be removed, be assigned blocker. Mangara actually did work kind of well for that. Marike was actually a ton of fun, though. Like, she did everything I wanted her to do. Marike with Minimo to untap her, and Marike with Kithian's backside to untap a creature was actually super nice. Like, she was just repeatable removal. 1 toughness is really weak in Modern. Being able to be removed is really weak in Modern. I don't believe going somewhere along the lines of Shalai and adding in 4th color is going to make that good, but I could potentially see like a Glittering Wish deck being able to make use of her. Go grab her if they're not expecting your removal. Just steal their biggest creature. Figure out a way to untap her. Like, if you do this while it's all in the stack, you should actually be able to take multiple creatures more than once. Venzer was also a really good card. He didn't really shine in Merfolk, but In my playtesting, I played against Ad Nauseam. I was able to bounce their Phyrexian Unlife, turn it into a value Ad Nauseam. He just having Flash and being able to remove a key part of a highly combo format is quite strong. Being 4 mana and double blue is rough, but he does do a lot of what you want you to do. Vendilion Click is just a strong blue card. I mean, I could go through. Drana probably needs to be removed. Like, if these 4 were Path to Exiles, I think we would have done significantly better. We need some kind of interaction. Not having Kite Self Rebooter, Spell Queller, Reflector Mage. We kind of just played Legends, and some of them were strong, and we were able to take some games, but it didn't get there on its own, and I really expected that, but it doesn't mean that this deck wasn't a ton of fun to play. Like, if you're not enjoying playing Magic, you probably just need to step back and reevaluate what you're doing. Maybe try a different deck, maybe just take a break from the format for a little while. And this is one of those decks that, despite the fact that I was losing, I had a ton of fun with it because we were setting up Tasigur to card advantage out. We ended up getting a far end to play with a Vial, and we were staggering, taking drawing cards every turn. Meanwhile, we had Sig River Cutthroat out while we were attacking in with Thick Thalia and being able to draw some cards. And we were chaining together this random card advantage off of a random slew of legendaries that just did not seem like they interacted with each other. And Goryo's Vengeance and Aether Vial are just great with where'd you go? Farah. But she doesn't really have a home, being 4 mana and not impacting the current board state, and also not even drawing you a card until the next upkeep is super bad. But if you can actually maintain a board state where you can keep her out, like, so many of these cards are fun. So many of these cards are commander. Like, I don't know. Nothing to be said. Total Timmy deck. A lot of fun. Weird interactions. Lazov was the highlight, I think, just because he was so flexible in being any of the toolboxes in the graveyard. But thanks for watching, everyone.